I blame the podcast that's gone wrong. Listen up, we're here to evolve from gadgets and trends we never.
Welcome to the AI Blade podcast. My name's David Willis-Owen, bringing you cutting-edge AI security research every single week. Today, we have a fascinating topic: backdoors in machine learning, the dark side of Hugging Face. So new machine learning models are a very exciting field to research, with lots of companies racing to get this stuff on the market, and many security researchers and data scientists looking at these models alike. Hugging Face is the leader in this space. Hugging Face is a platform which allows people to upload open source large language models and AI models that they have generated. And this allows people to also download these projects via the platform. At the time of writing, over 500,000 open source models are available on Hugging Face. But innovative threat actors are using the hype around AI as a guise to hack victim computers. In this post, we will use a case study by JFrog to examine a malicious machine learning model. We will look at how the underlying exploit works from a technical standpoint, why this poses a threat, and how it can be defended against in the future. To begin with, let's take a deeper look at the Hugging Face platform. So, Hugging Face is the number one platform for people to upload their machine learning projects. Anyone can upload a model, and this actually makes it a natural location for attackers to target and subsequently host viruses. In response to this, Hugging Face does a good job at scanning every file for indicators of malware. Furthermore, it also scans for secrets. So secrets are passwords or API keys, basically tokens of authentication used to access things. If people unwittingly upload a secret, an attacker could then read this and use it to exploit a target account. Okay, so the platform does all this scanning, but it only flags these models and files as unsafe. It leaves a little red comment in the model card, and it still allows the users to download these potentially malicious files. This is a very important point, and I'm definitely going to circle back to it later. The next section is the pickle problem. Machine learning models are commonly written in Python, a very high-level language for coding, and they use a framework called PyTorch. These PyTorch models often contain binary files in the pickle format. Don't worry if you don't understand what pickle is. I'll say it now anyway. Pickle is used to serialize Python objects. Serialization is converting a code object into bytes, and bytes are much easier to send and also store. When a victim loads a pickled binary file, however, the Python objects are deserialized, so this stream of bytes is turned back into Python. In the process of this, however, any code contained in the pickled files is executed, and this means an attacker could hypothetically perform arbitrary operations on the target's computer. This is an exploit known as insecure deserialization. It's out of scope for the podcast, but I do have a link in the blog where you can learn more from the Web Security Academy. This is a fantastic resource for learning more about in-depth exploits. Okay, now we have all the background information, let's do a deep dive on our case study, the malicious machine learning model. On February 27th, 2024, the security company JFrog published an article examining a malicious Hugging Face model. This was uploaded by a new user going by the name of Bula423. We're not going to comment on the name at all. They used a tool called pickling. So JFrog used this pickling tool to actually reverse engineer a malicious file uploaded by Bula423. They completed some fantastic analysis and were able to extract the payload the attacker was trying to execute on all the targets who downloaded this file. The next section is the Python reverse shell. So this is the payload which was actually uploaded to Hugging Face, and I will talk through some key components of it. It does look a bit intimidating if you haven't seen code or offensive security artifacts before. However, it is actually quite simplistic. What it does is it tries to create this reverse shell on the target machine. Reverse shell is a term given when a target computer initiates a connection back to this attacker-controlled listener. So the attacker sets up a listener and it waits for incoming connections. Then the target makes a connection to this listener, and the server, controlled by the attacker, can execute arbitrary commands. So let's discuss some key pieces of functionality within the payload. First of all, it defines an R host and an R port. The R host is the IP address of the attacker server. The R port is the port to connect to. Next up, it does a check to see what type of platform the target is running. It checks if the platform is Win32, and if it is, it tries to open PowerShell, which is a Windows command line utility. If it's not Win32, it simply tries to spawn a shell using the underlying Unix kernel. This is far simpler, and this will affect Linux machines and macOS machines. Finally, it performs an infinite loop using the while true command in Python. So let's look at the significance of this. If you're new to Python, the code may look intimidating, but it's actually a very basic payload, and it only takes up 46 lines. A lot of intermediate engineers could come up with something very similar to this, achieving the same functionality. And in just these 46 lines, the attacker can gain full access to most computers. All the target has to do is unwittingly load the machine learning model, and their machine will be compromised. Traditionally, the most effective attack vector is the age-old phishing email. So sending off a malicious attachment and then socially engineering a victim to click on it, and this attachment will allow the attacker to execute code. However, organizations are well aware of this, and they spend billions of dollars annually on firm-wide phishing training to make the human more secure, and bleeding-edge email filtering software to make the company estate more secure as a whole. However, AI/ML is a very new field, and enterprises are keen to capitalize on the associated hype. Many organizations do not have the same levels of security controls around these Hugging Face machine learning models. This makes them the perfect Trojan horse to disguise dangerous Python reverse shells. So how can we defend against malicious machine learning models? I've taken the approach of listing 3 steps, one for each of the main stakeholders. Stakeholder 1, Hugging Face. Don't allow malicious uploads. So Hugging Face carries out these comprehensive scans and flags up the files as potentially malicious. Instead of just flagging the files, Hugging Face should block these files completely, and this completely eradicates the threat of an unsuspecting user downloading the file, loading it in, and getting owned. For organizations, they should maintain tight security controls around AI/ML solutions. Organizations should keep attack vectors like the one just discussed in mind, ensuring they are treated with the same level of scrutiny as more established technologies. Hugging Face should be blocklisted by default, and pickled object downloads should be monitored due to their potential for remote code execution. And individuals, you should be aware of what happens when you load an untrusted machine learning model. When you load this model, you could be executing untrusted code. Be well aware of this risk and make sure the developer of the model is reputable. To summarize, let's wrap up the final thoughts and look to the future. Innovative threat actors are using AI as cover to carry out traditional attacks, and in the next 5 years, this method will become even more prevalent. This attack vector is so effective because people lower their guards when working with AI. The focus is on the latest features and tools, and security is often disregarded. By educating everyone about cybersecurity with podcasts and posts like these, we can draw attention to upcoming threats, cultivating a safer AI future. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. If you have any feedback, feel free to email me or leave comments in the blog post. And thank you very much for your time. Look forward to the next one. I'll see you then.